Welcome back to an all new episode of All Gas, No Trash. My name's Adam, and this episode is regarding the rumor about the Marias, and we'll get to that shortly after the Game Rage No Curse Minute. I do want to quickly mention that for those of you that are concerned about the verification process on YouTube, and that is by ID or by the algorithm, if you want to avoid all that, we are on RSS.com. That is our distributor of our podcast. All Gas, No Trash is available on RSS.com. So I think as long as you type All Gas, No Trash, RSS in whatever search engine you use, we should pop up and you can listen to our podcast through that and avoid everything on YouTube. Or you can go on whatever digital streaming platform you use, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or pretty much everywhere you can imagine. The video hosting for the live performances is going to stay on YouTube, and we'll leave it at that. That is Game Rage No Curse Minute. So, getting to the rumor of the Marias, I heard from the grapevine, or through the grapevine, there is music being worked on, and it's not just the Marias working on an album after the fact of Submarine being released. This is music that is being worked on by one of the main members, and that main member is María Zardoya, who is the vocalist and also the songwriter of the Marías. And what was pointed out by this source was that it wasn't just one song, it was multiple songs that were being worked on. And I had to go out of my way to make sure that this wasn't just something that was being said. And as soon as I heard this information, I had to verify it or corroborate it online and see what I could find. And it so happens to be that there was an article that was released on Nylon, which is a music, fashion, and I forgot what other thing they cover. It's an intersection of those three things. A magazine or publication that covers those three topics. And there was an article that featured María Zardoya that pretty much covers the project pretty damn extensively, to the point that it was something that I hadn't discovered myself, that Submarine was an album that discusses the relationship between Josh Conway and María Zardoya falling out or post breakup and the ramifications, side effects of that. And there was a paragraph or two that discussed that there is new music that is being worked on, that Maria went to New York to write the next album for the Marias. But in addition to that, and conversely, there was also music that was alluded to from the journalist. The journalist asked a question that said, could we expect a solo project from the Marias? And the quote that is put in the article says, perhaps, and that is a direct quote from Maria. And she also noted that it would not be radio hits. So this to me lines up with what I had heard from my source, and also what had been mentioned in this article, the timing of it between last week and a couple months ago for this article to be written sometime in May of 2025, this current year. It does lead me to speculate that this is in fact true. The only problem is that even if she had written those songs, are we going to see that hit the light of day? I mean, as artists are rather fickle about their music, to the point that, we could see 30 songs written or hear about 30 songs written, perhaps none of them even get released. So that is yet to be seen with this the alleged solo project, if we will even be able to see María Zardoya eventually go into a solo spin-off. And the timing of it is rather coincidental. I mean, to have this album called Submarine be about the fallout of the romantic relationship between Josh Conway and María Zardoya, the choice to go solo after the fact that this happened, it is rather coincidental, and I just find that rather interesting that this happened. uh I think perhaps this would have happened anyways. I'm sure she wanted to explore her own sound without the consultation of other members, probably at some point in her career. But maybe the falling out of the relationship just kind of expedited that process, and she really just wanted to hone in on her own sound and figure things out on her own. But yeah, one of the other questions, that I have personally about the potential future is for their record label to be Atlantic Records. I wonder if there is perhaps a clause within their contract for their record label deal as far as recordings go that any subsequent or even spin-off bands that exist in relation to the Marias, in this case it would be Maria Zardoya going off into her own solo project, if that is something that's mentioned within their contract, or could we perhaps see Maria shopping this thing around with perhaps another record label if she wanted to do so, and figuring out publishing, figuring out whatever record label she wants to work with that could perhaps be more accommodating. But I don't know if I see that happening. If you're already working with Atlanta Records, perhaps they could provide you even the resources that you already have and perhaps more. But I don't know. I just, that's one thing that I perhaps wonder about, is if there's some kind of stipulation in their contract that says any subsequent bands that follow after the Marias, in this case for her to have her own solo project, if that is all under the domain of Atlantic Records, or maybe she can take this to some other record label, or maybe she just releases it on her own. That's what I'm wondering. But that those are the few things that I've heard and read about as far as the Marias go that has drawn a lot of intrigue for me personally. This isn't a band that I follow extensively, but nonetheless, I felt that I felt I had an obligation to share this information for you to get excited, for those of you that are fans of her music. I don't know if get another I'll get another tweet from the birdie that I hear from, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll get another Maria's album before this solo project actually gets underway. But nonetheless, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed that juicy bit of information that I heard, and we'll catch up on the next episode that we will release sometime next week. But thanks again for tuning in. My name's Adam, and I'll obviously catch you on the next episode. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you next time.